What happens when a CEO books a massage at one of his own spas and ends up watching a single mom get turned away for not having enough money? Zane Vellor owned 11 wellness spas scattered across the Pacific Northwest. He bought the struggling chain 7 years ago from a retired couple and turned it into a sleek, modern brand. But lately, the customer reviews had shifted. Not terrible, but off. Words like cold, rushed, and not welcoming popped up more than they should. He brought it up during a quarterly meeting, but his district manager brushed it aside. People just want to complain. Numbers are stable. That bothered Zane more than he let on. If people felt unwelcome in a place meant to help them relax, that was a problem. And he hated relying on filtered reports. He wanted to see things for himself. So he picked the Oak Ridge Spa, the busiest of the 11, and booked a 90-minute massage under a fake name, Lucas Green. He used a convincing prosthetic goatee, added a pair of thick glasses, and wore a loose hoodie with joggers. Nobody at that location had ever met him in person. It was a corporate setup. Hiring went through HR, and most staff only saw his face in training videos. He entered the spa 15 minutes early and stepped up to the reception desk. A young woman with bright red nails barely glanced up. Name: Lucas Green. I've got a massage with, Kira. She tapped her keyboard. Okay, you're early. Have a seat. Zane sat down on the faux leather bench, subtly scanning the space. Music played softly overhead. A diffuser puffed eucalyptus into the air. Everything looked perfect on the surface. But the front desk girl hadn't smiled once. He was about to pull out his phone when the front door opened behind him. A woman walked in, holding a wriggly toddler on one hip and a worn diaper bag on the other. She looked nervous, like she'd debated coming in at all. Her brown hair was pulled into a loose bun, and her coat had a tear near the pocket. "Hi," she said. "I had an appointment. I called earlier. I was wondering if I could maybe pay part now, part next week. I just got a job interview, and please, I really need this." The receptionist's face twisted, annoyed. "Ma'am, we don't do split payments. I know, I don't get paid until Friday. I can cover half now." "We're not a charity," the receptionist snapped. "Kira's time is valuable. You either pay or reschedule." Zane watched the woman's face drop. She shifted her toddler, who had started fussing. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I just thought maybe you thought wrong. Please come back when you're ready to pay." The woman blinked fast, clearly trying not to cry. She turned around and left without another word. Zane stood up. "Hey," the receptionist shot him a glare. "Sir, your massage is in 10 minutes. Please wait." He sat back down slowly, heart pounding. That wasn't just rude, it was cruel. And no one said a word. The front lobby had gone quiet, like everyone was pretending it didn't happen. His massage started on time. Kira, the masseuse, was polite but distant. She didn't ask many questions. No warmth. No interest. Just a job to her. When it ended, Zane stood in the locker room staring at himself in the mirror. The woman's face kept flashing in his mind. Embarrassed. Exhausted. Trying to hold it together. He pulled out his phone and checked the schedule. The district manager was due to visit Oak Ridge next Thursday. He'd be back this time without the disguise. But first, he needed to learn more. He walked back out to the lobby and quietly asked another employee, a soft-spoken guy folding towels near the back, "Hey, just curious, what's it like working here?" The guy glanced around, lowered his voice. "Honestly, depends who's watching. Some of us try to help people, but management's all about money." "Got it," Zane said. "Thanks." He walked out into the cool air, pulled out his phone, and made a call. "I want the employee schedules for Oak Ridge. And send me the full history on that receptionist. First name's Riley." Zane arrived at the Oak Ridge location the following Thursday just after noon, dressed in a fitted navy blazer and dark jeans. This time, no disguise. He walked through the glass doors with the district manager, Trina, at his side. She was in her early 40s, sharp-eyed and always impeccably dressed, with a clipboard tucked under one arm and a Bluetooth headset resting around her neck. As they stepped inside, the receptionist from last week, Riley, glanced up. Her expression didn't change. "Hi. Welcome to Saran Spa," she said flatly. "Checking in." Trina gave a tight smile. "Actually, we're here for a management walkthrough." Riley blinked. Then her eyes locked on Zane's face. A flicker of recognition. Trina gestured toward him. "This is Zane Vellor." Riley froze. Her mouth opened slightly, but she said nothing. Zane didn't acknowledge her. "Let's start in the back," he said to Trina. "Massage rooms first." They stepped past the front desk and into the hallway. A few staff glanced up, clearly surprised to see the owner in person. Some nodded cautiously. Others avoided eye contact. Kira, the therapist from last week, was wiping down a table in room 4. She looked up, startled. "This is Kira," Trina said. "One of our most requested massage therapists at this location." Zane looked her in the eye. "How many clients do you take per shift?" She hesitated. "Usually 6. Sometimes 7. Depends who calls out." "That's a lot," he said. "How long are your breaks between sessions?" 15 minutes. On paper. But I clean my own room, so. Not always. Zane nodded once. "And how's morale around here?" Kira glanced at Trina, then back at him. "We're under pressure. A lot of us feel like we're just machines." Trina jumped in. "We've been pushing for more efficiency to meet demand. It's standard across locations." Zane turned to her. "Standard doesn't mean sustainable." Trina stiffened but didn't speak. They moved down the hall. Zane stopped by the employee lounge, a cramped room with 2 chairs, a microwave, and a vending machine. A young man in scrubs was sitting on the floor next to a duffel bag, eating noodles from a paper cup. "You on break?" Zane asked. The man looked up. "Sort of. I was supposed to be off today. Got called in last minute." Zane crouched beside him. "What's your name?" "Damien." "You work front or back?" "Laundry and room resets." "I'm the only one today. Other guy quit last week." Zane stood slowly. "How long have you been here?" "Almost a year." "Ever feel like you're part of the team?" Damien gave a short laugh. "Only when something breaks. Then it's suddenly all my fault." Zane didn't respond. He turned to Trina. "Let's go back to the lobby." When they stepped out front, Riley was speaking to an older woman in a shawl. Her voice was sharp, impatient. "I already told you. You missed your appointment. We can't just squeeze you in." The woman, clearly flustered, held up a printed email. "But this says 12:30. I came straight from the hospital. I called ahead. Ma'am, I don't have time for this. You'll have to rebook." Zane stepped forward. "I'll make time." Riley turned, startled. He took the printout from the woman's hand. "This says 12:30. It's 12:42. That's within the no-charge late window." Riley crossed her arms. "Policy says 10 minutes. Policy says 12 for medical exemptions and hospital discharges." His tone was even but final. Riley hesitated, then looked down. Zane turned to Trina. "Get her a session." "On the house." Trina nodded and hurried off. Riley muttered, "She's always trying to get extras." "People like that." Zane cut her off. "People like what?" She paused. "I'm going to ask you once," he said quietly. "And you need to think very carefully before you answer." Riley's mouth opened, but nothing came out. Zane stepped closer. "You humiliated a woman last week who offered to pay half for a massage. You denied her with a child on her hip. Today, you tried to turn away a woman returning from the hospital, even with proof. You've made it clear who you think deserves service here." Riley's face turned pale. "I was just following." "You weren't following anything. You were choosing who got treated with dignity. And you chose wrong." Trina stepped up. "Zane, no," he said. "This isn't a conversation. Riley, you're done here. Effective immediately." Riley gaped. "You can't." "I just did." "Leave your badge on the desk." For a moment, everything in the lobby froze. Then Riley, face flushed with disbelief, yanked off her lanyard and slammed it onto the counter. She stormed out without another word. Zane turned to Trina. "She's not the problem. She's a symptom. How many others like her are hiding in plain sight?" Trina looked down. "I'll start reviewing personnel files." "You'll do more than that." Starting tomorrow, every location begins a full retraining on empathy, inclusion, and the actual policies we've apparently stopped enforcing. She nodded. Understood. Zane walked toward the treatment hallway. At the end of it, Kira stood half-hidden in a doorway watching. He motioned her over. She approached slowly, unsure. I need a favor, he said. Think you can clear 1 hour this afternoon? She glanced at the schedule screen behind the desk. I can shift a client. Why? There's someone who didn't get her session last week. I want her to have that hour. On us. Kira frowned. Who? Single mom. Brown coat. Left crying last Thursday. Kira blinked. I remember. Find her, Zane said. Reach out gently. Tell her we owe her a real experience. Kira nodded, her voice quiet. I will. He stepped back, surveying the lobby. The tension had thinned. A few clients looked up, curious but calm. Damien passed by with a stack of folded towels, and Zane gave him a small nod. It wasn't much, but it was a start. He turned toward the office. There was still the matter of scheduling, staffing, and salary discrepancies all buried in the daily grind. But the worst rot wasn't in the numbers. It had been standing right at the front desk. Zane closed the door behind him and sat down, already pulling up the payroll dashboard. No more filters. No more distance. From now on, he wanted to see everything. The following Monday, Zane returned to Oak Ridge without any corporate entourage. No Trina, no clipboard, no warning. He wore a plain button-up shirt and carried a leather folio, arriving just before opening. The spa was quiet, lights still warming up, the scent of lemongrass drifting faintly from the hallway diffuser. A few staff were already inside, prepping rooms and laying out linens. Damien, the laundry tech, was carting clean towels down the corridor, earbuds in. He noticed Zane and gave a small nod, then continued without stopping. Kira emerged from the break room carrying a box of tissues and a clipboard. She looked surprised but not unsettled. You're early, she said. I wanted to check in before the day got busy. She hesitated, then motioned him toward the back office. They passed by the front desk, now staffed by a woman in her mid-30s with short curls and a calm, attentive demeanor. She looked up and greeted him. Morning. You must be Zane. He nodded. You're new here. Yes. I transferred from Salem last Friday. Name's Rochelle. Kira added. She volunteered to step in after. Everything. Zane turned to Rochelle. How's the transition been? Fast, she said, but smoother than I expected. People here were just waiting for someone to listen. Inside the small office, Kira pulled the door shut and leaned against the filing cabinet. I reached her, she said. Zane didn't ask who. He knew. She was hesitant at first, thought it was a scam. But I explained gently. She came in Sunday morning. I gave her the full session. No shortcuts. Zane waited. She cried, Kira said. Not during. After. Said it was the first time in months anyone treated her like a person, not a problem. He exhaled quietly, then adjusted the folder in his hand. She left a note, Kira added. It's in the drawer if you want to read it. Later, he would. But not now. Anything else I need to know? He asked. Kira hesitated. We're short again. Damien's pulling double duty today. The new laundry hire quit after orientation. Said it was too much for the pay. Zane didn't respond immediately. He opened the folder and flipped to a thin stack of resumes. We're increasing base wages across all support roles starting next week. Minimum of $22 an hour. And I'm bringing in an operations temp for 2 weeks to lighten the load until you're fully staffed. Kira blinked. Seriously. Seriously. But I need you to keep an eye on morale. Some people are still waiting to see if this is just a phase. She nodded slowly. Understood. As they stepped back into the hallway, the first few clients began trickling in. Soft murmurs, the scent of warming oils, the shuffle of slippers on tile. Zane stood back and watched Rochelle greet each person with the same calm energy, offering tea or water, confirming names without rushing. Then a voice rose from the hallway. This is ridiculous. I've been coming here for 3 years. I shouldn't have to wait. A tall man in a gray tracksuit stood near room 2, arms crossed, glaring at a petite esthetician named May. She looked flustered, holding a tablet in one hand. "I'm sorry, Mr. Connors, but your appointment was scheduled for 10, not 9:30. I always come early. You know that. I want the full hour." May's voice was steady but strained. "The room's still being cleaned. It'll be ready in 10 minutes. Zane stepped forward. "Is there a problem?" The man turned. "Who are you?" "Owner." Mr. Connors scoffed. "Well, maybe you can explain to your staff that regulars deserve some flexibility." Zane's voice didn't rise. "Regulars deserve respect. So do the people who work here." Connors squared his shoulders. "I'm a founding member." "You're risking a lot by embarrassing me." Zane didn't flinch. "You're welcome to wait. Or cancel. But you will not speak to anyone here like that again." Connors hesitated, then muttered something under his breath and walked off toward the lounge. May exhaled and gave Zane a quick, grateful glance before disappearing into the treatment area. By noon, the spa was running at full pace. Zane spent most of the day shadowing staff, not interfering, just observing. He sat in on a team huddle led by Rochelle, watched Damien maneuver 2 broken laundry carts without complaint, and checked the back storeroom inventory. Several items were low lavender oil, disposable face cradle covers, tea bags. He flagged it to Rochelle. She tapped her tablet. "I noticed that last night. Auto-order system's been buggy. I've been submitting manually." "Why wasn't that fixed weeks ago?" he asked. She looked up. "People stopped reporting it. Said it never got addressed anyway. That stuck more than it should have." Before he left for the day, Zane asked May to join him in the office. She stepped in cautiously, still unsure around him. "I wanted to follow up about earlier," he said. She sat in the chair across from him. "It's fine. That happens a lot." "It shouldn't." She shrugged. "I've learned to let it roll off." Zane leaned forward. "Don't. Letting it roll off is what lets it stay." May was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "There was a time I loved working here. The first year we had team lunches, staff shout-outs, even birthday cards. Then it stopped. No explanation. Just gone." Zane nodded slowly. "We're bringing that back. But I need someone to help me make sure it sticks." May looked surprised. "Me? You show up. You de-escalate. You care. That's leadership." She smiled faintly. "I'm not a manager. You don't have to be. Just someone who speaks up when the rest go quiet." She nodded once, more to herself than him. "Okay." Zane stood. "That's all. Thank you." As she left, he opened his laptop and began drafting a directive to HR. Start identifying internal candidates for wellness ambassador staff who'd act as peer advocates at each location. Not managers. Just trusted voices. People like May. He stayed until close, watching as the last clients filtered out and lights dimmed. Rochelle locked the front door and Damien dragged the final load of towels into the back. As Zane prepared to leave, Damien passed him again, this time slower. "Hey," Zane said. "I owe you a real break one of these days." Damien gave a tired smile. "I'll believe it when I see it." "You will." Outside, the sky was already dark, rain slicking the sidewalk. Zane stood for a moment under the awning, watching the reflections of the spa's warm interior flicker across the wet pavement. It wasn't fixed. Not yet. But it was moving. And this time, he wasn't watching from afar. 2 weeks later, Zane walked into the downtown Portland location, his flagship spa, with a clipboard in one hand and a new policy binder in the other. The Oak Ridge visit had catalyzed a series of sweeping internal reforms, but implementation across all 11 spas had to be carefully paced. He'd resisted the urge to overhaul everything at once. Instead, he started with 3 pilot locations to test changes before scaling. Portland was the second. He arrived just before the morning shift change. The front lobby was quiet, sun filtering through the frosted windows. A young man behind the front desk glanced up, tense, then stood when he recognized Zane. His name tag read Joel. "You're early," Joel said carefully. "I prefer to see how the day really begins." Zane set the clipboard down on the counter. You're Joel, right? Yes, sir. Zane tilted his head. You always this nervous? Joel paused. I've only been here a month. Heard you don't visit unless something's wrong. I'm changing that. Zane opened the binder and slid a page across the counter. You were one of 3 employees nominated by name in last week's client surveys. That doesn't happen often. Joel blinked. Seriously. Seriously. Keep doing whatever you're doing. Joel exhaled, some of the tension leaving his shoulders. Thanks. Zane stepped into the back hallway, where a group of massage therapists were gathered near the staff whiteboard. A new face was leading the morning briefing, a woman in her mid-40s with short silver hair and a steady, grounded tone. We've got 2 call-outs today, she was saying. So I'm pulling double and moving my last appointment to close. If anyone wants to swap or shorten their lunch to help, let me know. No pressure. Zane waited until she finished before stepping closer. You're covering today's short staff? She turned. Yeah. I'm Elise. Lead therapist here. He extended a hand. I know who you are. I read your file last night. She shook it. That good or bad? Impressive. Especially your client retention rate. Highest of any therapist across all locations. I just try to listen. Zane nodded toward the board. You've been covering a lot of gaps lately. Elise sighed. We've had turnover. 2 new hires in training, but they're not cleared yet. I rotate more to keep the team from burning out. You ever ask for help? I file the reports. Not sure what happens after that. Zane opened his clipboard. Starting next week, the scheduling model across all locations shifts. No more solo backfills. We're introducing a flex rotation that pulls from a reserve of certified floaters. You'll never be left patching the day alone again. Elise blinked, caught off guard. Wait, how many floaters? We're hiring 8 across the region. They'll rotate through based on need. You'll get a dedicated scheduler assigned to you by Friday. She studied him for a moment. We've been asking for this for over a year. I know. And I waited too long to act. Elise gave a small nod, then pointed to the break room. You might want to talk to Lacey. She's been holding a lot in. Zane found Lacey sitting at the lunch table, sipping a thermos of tea. She looked up when he entered, her expression unreadable. You mind if I sit? He asked. She gestured to the chair across from her. I've heard good things about your work, he said. Lacey crossed her arms. I've heard a lot of things, too. Zane waited. I've been here almost 5 years, she said. I love the work, but lately it's like we're invisible. Clients expect more, management expects silence, and we're stuck in between. Why didn't that come up in your last review? I stopped being honest when I realized honesty didn't change anything. Zane leaned forward. That's changing, but I need you to believe it long enough to help shape what comes next. She studied him. We'll see. He stood slowly. We will. Just after noon, Zane walked into the admin office to meet with the location manager, a man named Calvin. He was in his late 30s, sharp-dressed, and surrounded by spreadsheets. You've been running this location for how long? Zane asked, taking a seat. For years. Numbers are consistent. I've seen the numbers, but I'm more interested in the people side. Calvin frowned. We hit our targets. Staff turnover is under national average. That's not the measure anymore. Calvin didn't respond. Zane opened his binder and slid a printout across the desk. This is a complaint from a client named Nadine. She said she overheard you refer to one of our therapists as not the right look for premium clients. Calvin looked away. That was taken out of context. Then explain the context. Calvin didn't answer. Zane continued. Another report, this one internal from Joel. He says you routinely reassign walk-ins away from therapists you don't think fit the brand. That's a judgment call I make to protect the business. Zane's voice stayed calm. You're making those calls based on appearance. I'm making them based on presentation. There's a difference. No, there isn't. Calvin shifted in his chair. Listen, I've run this location at a profit for 4 years. You start micromanaging aesthetics, you'll lose clientele. Zane stood. I'd rather lose a client than protect discrimination. Calvin's jaw clenched, but he said nothing. You're being replaced, Zane said. Effective today. Rochelle from Oak Ridge will be stepping in as interim manager. She'll be here by end of day. Calvin stood too, voice low and sharp. You're making a mistake. Zane opened the office door. No, I'm correcting one. By 4 o'clock, Rochelle had arrived, suitcase in hand. She moved quickly, taking over the front desk briefing and introducing herself to the staff. Zane watched quietly from the hallway as she addressed the team with calm authority. I'm not here to overhaul your routines, she said. I'm here to help clear space so you can do what you're best at. If something's broken, I want to know. If something's working, I want to hear it twice. That evening, Zane returned to his home office. He pulled up the regional dashboard on his laptop. Small improvements were already visible: slightly longer client session reviews, fewer last-minute call-outs, and a marked increase in voluntary employee feedback. But the numbers weren't what mattered most. He opened an email from Kira. It had a short subject line. You asked me to follow up. Attached was a photo, a woman in a light brown coat, smiling softly, her arm around a toddler. They were standing outside the Oak Ridge Spa holding a small gift bag. Below the photo, a single sentence. She said she felt safe coming back. Zane stared at the screen for a long time before closing the laptop. That sentence meant more than any quarterly report. He'd built the spas to offer people peace, but somewhere along the way, peace had been rationed, offered only to those who could afford it, dress the part, or speak the right way. That era was over. His phone buzzed. A text from Rochelle. No words, just a photo of the staff whiteboard at Portland. Someone had written a new note in marker near the bottom. Respect is the new standard. Zane smiled, then set the phone face down on the desk. Tomorrow would bring more decisions, more resistance, and more work. But tonight, he allowed himself one quiet moment. The culture was changing. Not through slogans, through people.